Welcome to day 29. Today we're going to be talking about Job chapter 35 to 37. Now, previously we were introduced to this young man, I wouldn't say almost a kid, named Elihu. Though he's the youngest among the story in book of Job, he seems to show the most wisdom or the most fear of God. He was rejecting the condemnation of Job's friend, and he's also rejecting Job, justifying himself before God, and that's where we're picking up. In chapter 35, Elihu condemns self righteousness that I was talking about. In verse 16, he says, "Therefore, Job opens his mouth in vain. He multiplies words without knowledge." Chapter 36 is Elihu proclaiming God's goodness. In verse 5, he says, "Behold, God is mighty, but despises no one. He is mighty in strength of understanding." He goes on to proclaim God's majesty. And then finally, in chapter 37, he says, in verse 14, "Listen to this, O Job, stand still and consider the wondrous works of God." And that ends our reading. So, for my takeaway, in Psalms 111, verses 2 to 3, it talks about the works of the Lord. It says, "The works of the Lord are great, studied by all who have pleasure in them. His work is honorable and glorious, and his righteousness endures forever." Here's a cool quote by the scientist Johann Kepler. "I had the intention of becoming a theologian, but now I see how God is by my endeavors, also glorified in astronomy, for the heavens declare the glory of God." He's referring to Psalms 19, verse 1. So we see the invisible qualities, the greatness of God is seen in his creation. We can say, as I mentioned before, when you see a tattoo that's very intricate, expertly made, you wouldn't believe the person if he says that there's no tattoo artist. That's just intellectual suicide. It's not going to be there randomly. There has to be someone who created it. And so the same with the how amazing each creation is. It glorifies God. It says in Isaiah 6, verse 3, "The whole earth is full of his glory." Romans 1, verse 20 says, "For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen." So even though we cannot see God physically, we have the evidence to believe, we have the confidence to believe that there is God. But the conversation doesn't stop there. The question becomes, who is this God then? Or what now? If there's God, what do we do now? And that's the hope of all this series of videos of this teaching, to hopefully give you understanding to be closer to God. So my prayer is that even though we are surrounded by the glory of God, our perception of it is not there. We take them for granted, and we just think of them as, we're so used to it that we don't glorify God or thank God in our heart sincerely. So my prayer is in Habakkuk 2, verse 14. It says that the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the water covers the seas. So we are surrounded by his glory, but we don't have the knowledge of that because of our sinful fallen mind. And even as a believer, the ongoing process of being changed is continuous. It's intentional. And the more we change our minds toward the thinking of God, the more we appreciate him, the more we behold his glory. So that's it. That's it for today. Thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you. And my prayer is that you would seek God daily through the Bible. And please take very good care of yourself. Bye bye.